When out on a quest, perhaps finding nothing is the most interesting discovery of all. It's been a few months, 4 in fact, since the first part of the Corners of Sandwich came out. Since then, school began, school continued, I got engaged, and now here we are. I have another vacation on my hands. Lots of people asking questions about the Corners. What happened next? Did he find them all? Was he lost? Were the Corners in fact put there by aliens? No, they were not. Now, as a recap, so Sandwich is settled 1637 by the English. Prior to this, Native Americans, namely the Wampanoag tribe, lived on Cape Cod across southeastern Massachusetts for thousands of years. After the Europeans showed up, Europeans spread a great deal of disease, decimated the native tribes. English settlers took advantage of this decimation and bought up land. The land that is Sandwich was purchased by John Winthrop of the Mayflower from Massasoit, native chief of the Wampanoags, in 1637. All of the settlements that we're talking about in Colonial Sandwich is really just the land that today we know of as 6A. So we have 3 major settlement areas in 1600 Sandwich. Downtown Sandwich, as we know it, around Sham Pond. The second area of settlement in early Sandwich is around Spring Hill. It's a pretty robust community, lots of homes, lots of farms. And the third one is down by Scorton Creek. The rest of the land is what's known as the commons. Anyone could use it. You could use it for grazing your sheep. You could use it for hunting. This was just forests. And the trees were massive. You have these huge oaks, huge white pines. This communal land that is maintained by all and used by all doesn't last forever. In 1684, the Plymouth Bay Colony tells the towns of the colony to divide up their common land. Sandwich doesn't really begin this process until 1704. By this point, Massachusetts Bay Colony is the controlling power, and the town really begins a tough undertaking of how do you divide up 20,000 acres of land in a way that's not going to get everyone angry. So in 1716, the woodlands south of Route 6A over what's today the highway get divided up. And really not much changes other than the forests are cut down and farms are built until 1884, when Bourne divides from Sandwich. And this is where the story begins, is the division of Bourne and Sandwich. Because at that point, in 1884, granite stone markers are cut by 2 men, Daniel Tribot and Seth S. Maxim. They're carved with the initials of the towns, and they're placed at the 24 corners of Sandwich. So I found a map of these markers in the glorious book, Sandwich, a Cape Cod Town, by R.A. Lovell Jr. After I found this map, I sat with it for a year or two, just thinking about these corners. And finally, this past summer, I decided to go look for them. I first created a Google map, inputted all the corners that I could find onto that digital document. I cross-referenced it with the town property maps. I cross-referenced that with the 1901 boundaries of Sandwich, found in the Massachusetts archives. And then I looked at Google Maps. I really wanted to know what was near these boundary markers. Was it next to a house? Was it next to a road? Was it gonna be a hike through a pond? So I really wanted to figure out what was there now, because when these boundary markers were placed, it was mostly just farmland. Certainly some of these boundary markers are in people's yards. So I knew that I'd have to knock on some doors, talk to some folks, and certainly on the second day, I did just that. So here we go, let's kick it for the second day, the second part of the quest for the Corners of Sandwich. It is day 2 of questing for the stone markers of the Corners of Sandwich. It's excellent quest so far. Yesterday saw a lot of cool things. Today, just rode from Centerville to Rider Conservation Land. And I'm gonna head over to the first stone boundary marker, at least where we think it is. So, let's boogie. As you're driving down Cotuit Road, if you're heading north, you pass Wakeby Pond on your left. I love this opening. It looks so cool. I've always enjoyed it in a car, but on a bike, it's even better. So that first boundary marker that I found on the second day was on the side of Cotuit Road. If you're driving down Cotuit Road, you can see it from the road. Certainly you might have to slow down and have a sharp eye. I found it. Very close to that marker is another one. Now the lines of Sandwich have been redrawn a number of times. If you look at the old records, Sandwich and Mashpee have been trading lines for almost all of its existence. So the lines around Mashpee-Wakeby Pond are weird. They're strange, they zigzag across a pond, which certainly makes sense. Ponds are confusing when it comes to property lines. How do you draw a line across water? However, you do have instances like these two where they're only about 80 yards apart. I found the owner of the house in the driveway, informed her that there was a property marker, and she said, oh yeah, there's one right up there. The first one that I found. I said, no, you have one behind your house. She said, no, I don't think so. I said, okay, well, would you mind if I looked? She said, sure. And within 30 seconds, I found it. She said, oh, I must have never seen that. I've probably looked at it 100 times and never thought of it. So the second boundary marker of the day had been found. So next I rode up Cotuit Road a bit more and down Oldham Circle. I knew that this next property marker lay in some common lands. Often when neighborhoods are divided up, the developer creates a buffer between homes. And in this development, it's no different, that there is a buffer between a lot of properties. So I knocked on the door of the closest one to this marker, no one answered. So I found my way down to the trail that cuts between these homes, and sure enough, here was my third marker of the day. On to the fourth. I rode once again up Cotuit Road, and at the intersection of John Ewer Road and Cotuit Road was the fourth marker in the southeast corner of that intersection. Alright, no sign of it yet. It's not over in these woods. See it. I see it. It's poking up out of the grape leaves. So I started my quest 10 for 10, which I was ecstatic over. I knew that a lot had changed since the late 1800s, but it was quite thrilling to find every single one I went looking for. And then came the ones that I couldn't find. So I rode down Pimlico Pond Road, which is a gloriously excellent road, quite curvy, a bit scary on a bike, especially when there's people trying to pass you, and there isn't really a good place to pass. The majority of people that rode past me while I was on this quest were incredibly respectful and overly cautious, which was very, very helpful. So down Pimlico Pond Road was an area I'd really never been to in Sandwich. At the far southern end of Peters Pond is a development of small homes, and it was here I was looking for the 11th marker. I knocked on a door, spoke to some homeowners, and had permission to go through their backyard to go searching. my first strikeout, which is a bummer. That's okay. I'm gonna go to the next one. And here was the first missing marker. I'm not sure what happened to it. Perhaps when the homes were built, it got knocked down, maybe a tree fell on it. I don't know, but I certainly couldn't find it. So then I went searching for the 12th. If you drive down Cove Road, you'll get to a spot with homes that abut Pimlico Pond, which is a rather small pond that I'd never been to before. I parked my bike in some brush, hiked through the woods in between two properties, and found myself on this little pond. And it's there that I found the 11th marker. Yeah, got it. Oh my goodness. Hiking back, I continued down Cove Road, all the way to the end. Now, I'm not sure who gave permission for this home to be built. It was built in 1938, and it seems to have been built directly in the middle of a road. It's at the corner of what's known as Pickerel Cove. It abuts a conservation land called Pickerel Cove Wildlife Management Area. I searched and searched around the home, but no one was home when I knocked, so I didn't want to go kicking around in their rose bushes, so I came back. A few weeks later, I bushwhacked around the house, found myself on the other side in the conservation land trails, and sure enough, found the next stone. On the hillside down here. The guy was a little weed whacker. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I found it. I've been looking for so long. Then swept down the woods into the pond and hiked my way up along the shore and found the next boundary marker. Close. Very close. Yes. The final one I went looking for on the second day is off of Route 130, down Sandwich Falmouth Road, an epically long road that was eventually cut off by the military base. And I guess that's where our story next begins, Joint Base Cape Cod as it's known today. Why this military base is important for our story is that we know two of the boundary markers are destroyed with the construction of one of the runways. I knew that those two were missing, so I was going for next to look for the boundary markers on the edges of the military reservation.
Looks like we're right at the edge of the military installation. Supposedly it's right here. Hopefully it's not on the other side of the fence.
I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if the military took down this marker when they built the fence that lines the perimeter, but that boundary marker is definitively not there. The next day I went looking for the two westernmost boundary markers that mark the edges of Sandwich and Falmouth. This was a quite interesting quest. It took me along the back roads, the dirt roads of Mashpee. A lot of Mashpee, a huge percentage of Mashpee, is not developed, is conservation lands. And it makes for some interesting and very beautiful paths to ride your bike through. Eventually it brought me to the Francis Crane Wildlife Management Area. This is a bizarre landscape, and right next to it is a Falmouth Water District pump station. This is where the next boundary marker should have been, but it wasn't.
Alright, we are here on the corners of Mashpee, Sandwich, and Falmouth. And it's supposed to be somewhere in here.
I'm not sure what happened to it. Perhaps the water district took it down, perhaps it got plowed under. I'm not entirely sure. But it was the second missing marker. As I rode my way through the Francis Crane Wildlife Area, it is a strange landscape. It's barren, it's wide open, it's flat. There's some old military roads that weave through it that are just empty. It's actually a really cool spot. I would not go there much in the summer. The grass is very tall, there's probably ticks everywhere. But as I made my way through this strange landscape, I came across the next boundary marker.
Alright, we have made it to the Francis Crane Wildlife Sanctuary. And I get some trash. But here we go. We are here at the final corner of Sandwich on this south side. Sandwich is behind me. If you kept going up this is Turpentine Road. It kind of opens up on the other side into that cement. And then, so that's Sandwich. Over here, behind me is Falmouth. And then this way is Mashpee. at it!
So of the southern section, 19 boundary markers were placed there in 1884. 2 of them were paved under by the runway of the military reservation. 2 that border the military reservation are missing. So of the 19 original in the southern section of the boundary markers of Sandwich, 15 of them remain. So next, I was off to look for the northern boundary markers. And that will bring us to part 3.